Gotcha. How? Gotcha, Michael Larson. I unexpectedly married a Chinese woman, and we now have a mixed race baby. I was just curious what the status of the man in the family is. I have not yet met my mother-in-law, and I was wondering if anybody would have some suggestions on how I should handle that first visit.
Delighted to have you amazing viewers and an exciting time at Comfort for Life. Thanks for being here. I came across this video on my For You page on Rednote and decided to bring it here. You've heard the question he has just posed. I know you might be analyzing the statement, but let's focus on the question kindly. So we are going to look at Chinese cultural values, especially related to family. These values could also apply to the Asian culture generally. Like the video and let's dive into it.
Ni hao! With a traditional gift of oranges. I buy them wholesale.
What you need to know if you are meeting the Asian parents, or you even walk in the door, this is what you need to have. You need to have a gift. It can be fruit, like oranges, peaches, something like that. Secondly, when you get to the house, take your shoes off. Remember that I have to tell you guys this? Because some people do not take their shoes off inside the house, which is like kind of gross. But please take your shoes off. And last but not least, you have to get the mom to like you. That is the key to open the door. And if you don't get that by the end of the night, you honestly might be done.
Here are 3 gifts considered good luck in the Asian culture. If you're heading to a housewarming or an adult birthday party and have no idea what to bring, these are pretty safe bets. Number 1 is a beautifully curated fruit basket. Fruit is revered in the Asian culture, so items such as oranges, pomegranates, and pineapples are always appreciated. Number 2 is a solid tea set. Asians love our tea, especially green tea. So pick out a nice set, throw in some green tea, which means good health and longevity. Number 3 is a plant, especially lucky bamboo or an orchid. According to feng shui principles, lucky bamboo means good luck and good energy, while orchids mean beauty and refinement, and who doesn't need more of that? And bonus number 4, if you don't have time to grab those gifts, get a red envelope, throw some money in there, make sure it doesn't end in the number 4, that's considered bad luck, and gift it to the person. Red envelopes are considered lucky for any occasion, so birthdays, anniversaries, housewarmings, weddings, you name it, and it's always going to be appreciated.
There are 3 very common items that could be considered offensive if you send them as a gift to Chinese people. However, I would say this did vary from person to person. Some people don't really care, and particularly for the young generations, and the best way is you can actually check with them. And if you are actually a foreigner, and usually we will give you a lot of leeway, unless it's an obvious offensive thing. Considering my husband gave me chrysanthemum, does he want me to die? Or maybe he got life insurance drafted. Okay, so number 1, why you can't send them shoes? So you wear shoes and you walk away. So in a relationship, if you give other people shoes, that means you want them to go away. And the other thing is, in Chinese, there's a slang, there's a phrase called 给谁谁穿小鞋, which literally means you ask somebody wear the small shoes. Now imagine if you're wearing small shoes, you're not comfortable, right? So this phrase used to describe like your boss usually, or your superior, supervisors put you in a position that you are very uncomfortable. So that is not a good meaning associated with shoes, right? So I mentioned 3 items. What are the rest 2? Speaking of sending away, potentially has this meaning. The other thing is a fruit, pear. So pear is pronounced as li in Chinese, which literally means separate in a different character. Both of them has the same pronunciation. So that means separate. So if you give other people pear, means you want this relationship to end. You want them to go away. Same thing with umbrella. Umbrella is pronounced as san in Chinese. Now, san has a similarity pronunciation as sun in Chinese, which also means separation. So it's like between couples, if you give other people an umbrella, then that means we don't think this is going to work, right? But as I said, you take them as a grain of salt. If other people really think you have this meaning, that might have already indicated you guys are already in a very strained relationship. You know what I mean? But usually, if you're not sure, it's a good way to clear it out. And I don't really think Chinese people would actually use those innuendos with sending gifts to other foreign people, considering it's very possible they don't know the meaning. Like, I don't really take offense, but if you know, you know. Know what I mean? 我们玩。
What do Chinese people bring to their mother or father-in-law during festivals? 白酒、茶叶、燕窝、泡脚桶、海参、蛋白粉。
If your boyfriend or girlfriend from China, when we go to meet each other's parents, dad we can call 叔叔, mom we can call 阿姨. Meeting like this, 叔叔好, 阿姨好. If you are sure you are getting married, you can also call dad or mom in advance. 爸妈, 爸爸好, 妈妈好. Got it?
In the US, after your parents retire, they buy an RV and go traveling. In Chinese culture, however, after your parents retire, you take them on vacation. And for the past 3 weeks, me, my husband, and my in-laws have been traveling in Malaysia. And I'm so excited because this is my first time traveling in Southeast Asia since moving to China 6 years ago.
Come with me get breakfast in China, feed my father-in-law. This is the food street near our hotel in Shanghai. Settled on this pan-fried bun store. They have all sort of fillings. All are freshly made. We also got a soup noodle. Enjoyed meat and prawns filling the most. Father-in-law help us share the noodles. They are from Chongqing, so must add chili to make him proud. Thank you for feeding me.
This week in China is Qingmingjie, tomb sweeping holiday. I went with my fiance's family to the countryside to sweep their tombs, which basically means to add flowers, clean the graves, add incense, say prayers, etc. Since we were in the countryside, they only had this public restroom available. No stalls and no doors. I've lived in China for a while, so I'm used to squat toilets, but this is a whole other level. Literally everybody saw me with my pants down.
Okay, so I went to China for about 3 weeks to visit my husband's extended family, so his grandparents, aunt, uncle. And I kind of want to talk about what my experience was like. So obviously I am not the Chinese beauty standard. I'm slightly overweight. I am darker skin toned. I'm taller than my husband. So I feel like all of those traits kind of made me very insecure when normally I wouldn't be here in Canada. So like already going into this trip, I was kind of in a negative headspace. Although I didn't really experience any racism, I did feel like an extreme outsider. So we'll start with when I arrived to the village. Obviously the village is very small and everybody knows each other. So there's this random brown girl in their village and everybody stared at me. Like anytime I stepped outside of his grandparents' house, literally all eyes were on me, and that made me so freaking insecure. And when we got to the city, I thought maybe it wouldn't be as bad. No, it was still as bad. People would turn their heads just to look at me. And the thing is, like, obviously I have a baby with my husband. So whenever we were pushing the stroller, I kid you not, people would speed up, turn their neck to look inside the stroller to see our baby. And I just found that a little odd. Now, in terms of his family and how they reacted to me, obviously they had positive reactions. They're like, oh, hi, hello, or ne hao. Ne hao, that's the Cantonese way of saying hello. Ne hao. I knew a few Cantonese words, so I would say it here and there and they'd be happy. But outside of that, no one really tried communicating with me. No, I don't expect them to speak English because obviously they live in a village, they're in China. They're not going to speak English. That's totally fine. I completely understand that. But they didn't really try talking to me through Carson either. Whereas my relatives back home, like when they call, they don't really speak English either, but they will deliver messages through me, and that way Carson feels more included. But in my case, it didn't really seem like anyone wanted to get to know me or talk to me, which really kind of hurt my feelings. I had a little bit of a mental breakdown when I was there. So it wasn't really the best experience for me. Now, that could be because I'm brown and in China, maybe white people have a different experience. One of my friends actually went with her husband, and she's a white blonde girl, skinny, tall, whatever. Like I feel like she fits the beauty standard more. And they were telling me how people wanted to take pictures with her, and obviously no one wanted to take pictures with me. So hearing that and then comparing it to my experience, it really hurt. And like whenever we were out, people would obviously start a conversation with Carson, and they would fawn over the baby and talk to the baby in Mandarin or Cantonese, and they would talk to my husband, and I would just be kind of standing there off to the side. And again, no one's really trying to communicate with me or communicate through him to me. So it was a very isolating experience. Yeah.
When you see old people, do you see them as liability or treasure? I recently learned that in ancient China, if you live to the age of 50, you're the treasure of the whole village and your neighbors will all help taking care of you. And if you make it to 90 years old, the emperor himself will come and consult you on matters of running the nation. Respecting the elders has always been really important in the Chinese culture. We believe that if you respect your elders, you'll learn to respect old people in others' families. And this compassion that you learned can spread further into loving everyone around you. And nowadays, loving the elders is written into law in China. And it's basically these 5 elements: a stable place to stay, an access to medication, a place to get all the services, an opportunity to develop one's hobbies, and overall, the right for life's enjoyment.
What did you do for Thanksgiving? My uncle and I got to go through our jiapu, or family lineage book. It contains multi-generational family records describing who each ancestor was and what he or she did. The records are kept up to date and maintained by members of the Chinese clan. Throughout ancient China, jiapu were a way for people to look up to their ancestors, consider their own legacy, and develop a sense of responsibility to future generations. However, during the Cultural Revolution, jiapu were labeled backwards and feudalist, and many families had their jiapu burned and destroyed. Which view would you side with, and would you want one of these of your own ancestors?
If you want everything to be smooth in life, you want to be filial to your parents. That was what one old senior once shared with me. He said, 孝顺 is what filial means in Mandarin. So if you're 孝, which is you're good to your parents, then everything in life will be 顺, will be smooth. What do you guys think?
In China, many elders firmly believe that cooking with firewood makes the food taste better.
What do Chinese people's cars look like when they leave the village? Those who live or study in the city would go back to their hometowns to celebrate Chinese New Year with their family. When they are packing up to leave, parents will always try to stuff as much as possible into their car. So you'll see a car on the highway with 2 ducks hanging out of the trunk and a roasted chicken taped to the back windshield. Someone saw this car in the rest stop, and it looked like those free chicken on the right are having a small meeting. A blogger said his chicken escaped from the box and flew to his head while he was driving. Perhaps it's safer to bring something bigger so he can't move around like a whole sheep or a roasted pig. This dad stuffed some firewood into their children's car because firewood sounds like wealth in Chinese. If you have retired parents who grow vegetables or raise chickens in the backyard, your trunk will turn into a garden or wet market when you depart. This blogger drives a Porsche convertible. He captioned the photo, "Mom, I'm only returning to the city, not fleeing from a disaster." Netizens commented, "Your mom must have thought, what kind of crappy car is this? It can't hold anything." Another said, "Just retract the roof to allow auntie to fit more in. You can drive with a helmet. If you're flying or taking the train back, the suitcase will be filled to the brink." Parents will say junk food are bad for our body, while at the same time packing our suitcase full of them.
Chinese saying that literally says, you must raise your son in poverty and raise your daughter in wealth. So obviously it's not to be taken completely literally, but the mindset is that men have to work all their lives, right? So they cannot be raised to be entitled, lazy, not able to carry on a family. Whereas if you basically deprive your daughter of everything, she'll be lured away by somebody's lollipop or onion ring in this instance. So it's showing that yes, men and women are not interchangeable. They're all important, but isn't it funny how like the most misogynistic countries still viewed like women as needing to set high standards earlier in life so she doesn't bring the whole family down. She needs to raise her standards high because she won't go backward when a man isn't even providing what her father did.
Things Chinese parents don't want their daughters to do. First, you get fat. Second, you wash underwears with other clothes together in the washing machine. Third, you wear a crop top and your belly is out. Lastly, you like to eat cold food or drink cold water.
Hey overseas friend, today let's talk about the family value differences between China and Western countries. First, young people's view on independent living. In the US and Europe, 18-year-olds can't wait to move out. They rent near school or work to show they are all grown up. In China, young people want independence too, but the tuition fees and living expenses for children to go to college are all provided by their parents. If the university or the workplace is close to their parents' home, it's quite normal to live with their parents. And generally speaking, before getting married, we don't have the concept of parents' home. When we mention home, by default, it refers to the nuclear family composed by ourselves and our parents. And when you need to buy a house, most parents will take out their savings to help you pay the down payment. And this is quite normal in China. Then, the attitude towards kids' marriage. Western parents hardly ever push their kids to get married, but in China, it's normal to have relatives urging to marry, especially during Chinese New Year. Singles get asked all the time, when are you getting married? And marriage is seen as making the family complete. So they will do this. Finally, parents' retirement care. In the US, a lot of elderly people living in nursing homes and their kids visit on weekends. But in China, kids usually don't want their parents live in nursing homes. They live with or near them. Children will take care of their aged parents just like they once took care of us when we were young. And these differences come from different histories and cultures. But family love is everywhere, just showing different ways. That's all for today. Follow for more, and I'll see you in my next.
I'm glad you watched this exams. Thank you so much for being here. Would you share your thoughts in the comment section? What are some of the cultural traits that matches what you practice in your country from the Asian culture? I want to hear from non-Asian right here. What are some of the things that you practice that matches what is happening in China or in Asia generally? I know that there are also some fruits that are not like they are considered taboo in China. They're gifts that you should not give people. The video is linked in the comment section for you to watch so that you know the do's and don'ts even when you gift someone in Chinese culture. And what are the things that relate to what you do? Because I've seen a lot of similarities from Congolese culture, let me say African culture generally, because yeah, let me say African culture. We had Culture Week and I saw different things that people practice and I realized that we have a lot of similarities. I want to know the relationship between China and Africa. I felt that we live in a different world, totally, completely different world. Why is that we are having similarities? Is the world one, but we just speak different languages and we live in different sports, like called countries and continents, like, you know, that is dividing us? What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. You can as well support me through the thank button, subscribe if you're new here, and I will appreciate it. Thank you so much.